Son Christ. I.S.U.P.K Sabbath service has officially begun. Shofar, which means horn. Yayan, which stands for wine. La Yasharala, which means to Israel. Majum, which means to stand. We are going to recite the prayers in the Hebrew and in English. Solve upon your aquadom, which means turn and face the east. Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kwadash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakovka, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathan Lanawa, Lakam, Ka, Yawam, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawawak Yanawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawawak Yanawa, Wala'ah, Tabayayanawa, Banasaya 1, Abal, Hawashainawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'atapara, La'aiwalamium, Aman. In the English, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever, so be it. Akak, the power in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Babakosha, the thunder nawa, Hakak, Larapa'ah, Ka'amakala, Waka'amadawa, Hakak, Lata'ah, Hamatazarayim, Hakak, Lahaklayim, Hamastyam, Hakak, Arakaraf, Hatama'ala, Lagarishan, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Tawada Aman. In the English, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahushua, thank you, so be it. Psalm 121 in the Hebrew. Asha'ah, Ayanya, Ahahoyam, Ma'ayan, Yaba'ah, Izoria, Ma'ay, Yahweh, Aisha, Shamayam, Ra'arataza, Ayatan, Lamawat, Wagaka, Ayanawam, Shamarka, Hanala'ah, Yanawam, Wala'ah, Yayashan, Shawamar, Yasharala, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazarka, Ayad, Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'ah, Yakaka, Vayarak, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makar Rai, Yashamar, Afna Pashka, Yahweh, Yashamar, Tazaafka, Wabawaaka, Ma'aita, Wa'ait Iwalam, in the English. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. Psalm 83 in the Hebrew. Alahayim, Adamayalaka, Al Takarash, Wa Al Tashakwat, Al Kayahana, Our Yabyaka, Yahama Yawan, Wa Mashanayaka, Nasha'awa, Ra'ash, Al-Imaka, Yaira Yumwa, Sawa, Wayata Yaita Zawa, Ata Zapawanyaka, Amawa, Lakawa, Walakakida, Magoya, Wala'a, Yasakar, Sham Yasharala, Aiwa, Kaya, Nava Aita Zawa, La, Yakadwa, Ayaka, Bara'a, Yakawafwa, Ahoya, Adawam, Wayashamalayam, Mawa'aba, Wahagoya, Gabal, Wa'imawan, Wa'imalak, Palashaf, Anya Shabia, Tazawar, Gum Ashawar, Nalawa, Imam, Hayawa, Zawawai, Labanya Lawat, Salah, Aishalaham, Kamadian, Kasayasara'a, Kayabian, Banakar, Wayashwan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayanda Ara, Hayawa, Daman, La Adama, Shayatamwa, Nadiyabmawa, Ka'ira, Wakaza Abba, Wakaza Bak, Wakata Zalmanai, Kalnasaya Kamwa, Ashal, Amarwa, Nayarasha, La Nawa, Af, Na'awaf, Alahayam, Alahaya, Shayatamwa, Kagagala, Kakwash, Lapanya Raka, Ka'ash, Tama'ira Ya'ira, Wakalahaba, Talahat, Horyam, Kantara Datma, Basa Iraka, Wabasa Wapaka, Tamahalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Walawan, Wayabakwashwa, Shamka, Yahawa, Yabashwa, Wayabaawa, Adya'ai, Wayakapawa, Wayabadwa, Wayadaira, Kaya, Afa, Shamka, Yahawa, Labadka, Ayawan, Aka, Ha'arataza. Keep not thy silence, O my power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O my power. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, face the east, Aqua. Thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Gabal, Asar also is joined with them. They have opened the children of Lot. Salah, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zahab. Yea, all their princes as Zabak and as Zalmunna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of the power and possession. O my power, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth for wood, and as the flame set up the mountains on fire, so persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Yahweh, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High over all the earth. Blessing in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh, Wa Yahweh, Wa Mayaka Allah, Wa Alahayim, Matazabya Alawat Yahana, Ha Alawatya, Ha Saranya, Ha Katazayanya, Ha Kayayanya, Wa Ha Aquathya, Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Tawada Aman in the English. Bless you, Yahweh, and Yahushua, and Michael, and the angels, Commanding General Yahana, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, thank you. So be it. Bless Israel. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Barak Lanawa, Wayasharala, Wahabaya, Saparia, Barak, Rapa'ah, Magan, Agan, Yasharala, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Tawada Aman in the English. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, bless us and Israel and the school. Bless, heal, shield, protect Israel in the name of Yahushua. Thank you. So be it. I.S.U.P.K curses Blessed are you, Yahweh, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, listen to us now, right now. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen that speak against us, thy prophets, the teachers, the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the school. Send evils and curses, and punishment and destruction to the heathen, and shake loose the treasure of the rich of Israel that refused to give to the school. First their riches to enter into that sanctuary. Send evils and curses and punishment and destruction to the Edomites and the nations and their drug dealers, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, skinheads, Posse Kamatazi, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space programs, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet and the airways, the cable access channels, and the radio channels. Convict the spirit of any of our people that seek to stop us and bring swift destruction to all the heathen that stand in the way or try to stop us from broadcasting your words toward the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro to the earth and consume them. Let the plagues shake the house of the thief and the murderer. Let Yahweh, Michael, and Gabriel come down with the flying saucers and punish all the heathens that come up against us as we speak that word. Cause it to be known by all that it is the angels that have done it. Cause it to be spread through the media throughout the whole world. Cause them to shake at that coming. In the name of Yahweh, thank you always, so be it. So, which means return. Yeshabia, be seated. Son of Christ, clap it up. All right. Yep. Oh, son of Christ. All right, last week we left off at Esther chapter 5, verse 9. And double check that. All right. This week we're going to pick it up at verse 10 in chapter 5. Right?
You said Esther?
Esther 5 and 10. Come.
So that's an apocryphal.
Nah, we're in the regular scripture. Not the hidden ones. All right, so Esther chapter 5, verse 9. Okay, for some reason. It's a lot here. Okay. Bear with me. Because make sure we study in the right place. Okay, come. All right, we're starting at Esther chapter 5, verse 10 in the Hebrew. Wayatha Pakwa Haman Waya Bawa'a Al Bayafwa Waya Shalak Waya Ba'a Aha Bayawa Wa'af Zarash, Ashathwa, verse 11. Waya Sapar, Laham, Haman, Af, Kabawad, Aishawa, Rarab, Banyawa, Wa'af Kal, Ashar, Gadawa, Hamalak, Wa'af, Ashar, Nashawa, Ail, Hashar Yum, Wa'ai, Badia, Hamalak, verse 12, Waya Amar, Haman, Ap, La'ah, Habaya, Ha, Asaf, Asathar, Hamalak, Hamalaka, Ain, Hamalak, Al, Hama, Shatha, Ashar, Aish, Shatha, Kaya, Awafia, Wagam, Lama, Kar, Anya, Quara, Wa'ah, La'ah, Ain, Hamalak, verse 13, Wakar, Zaha, Ayanawa, Shawa, Laya, Bakar, Af, Ashar, Anya, Raha, Af, Maradakia, Haya, Hawadia, Yawashab, Bashaira, Hamalak, verse 14, Watha Amar, Lawa, Zarash, Ashafwa, Wakar, Aha, Bayawa, Ya'aishawa, Aitaza, Gabaa, Hamashyam, Hamaa, Wababakwa, Amar, Lamalak, Waya, Lawa, Af, Maradakia, Ailayawa, Waba'a, Ain, Hamalak, Al, Shatha, Shamak, Waya, Yapab, Waya, Yatab, chapter 6, verse 1. Walaya, Laha, Haha, Wa'ah, Nada, Da'ah, Shanaf, Hamalak, Waya Amar, Laha Baya'a, Af, Sapar, Hazakaran, Waf, Dabaria, Hayamyam, Wayaha Yawa, Nakwara Ayam, Lapanya, Hamalak, verse 2, Waya Mataza'a, Kaf Wab, Ashar, Hagayad, Mara Dakia, Ail, Bagath, Naha, Watharash, Shanya, Sarah Yasaya, Hamalak, Masha Maria, Hasap, Ashar, Bakwashwa, Lashalak, Yad, Bamalak, Akash, Rara Wash, verse 3. Studied at verse 10. All right, verse 2 is the last verse. Picking it up in the English. All right, Esther chapter 5 and 10. All right, nevertheless, I'm going to read the last verse so we could get the backdrop. Last verse we read last week. Verse 9. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him. He was full of indignation against Mordecai. So that's when we last week when we left off at is when Mordecai had left the party that Queen Esther had threw for her husband, all right, because she wanted to get his favor. So she didn't go directly and ask him directly what it is that she wanted. She made a banquet first. All right, so Haman had left that banquet, and now he saw Mordecai, and he was full of indignation because Mordecai did not bow down to him like everybody else was. All right. Verse 10, nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friend and Zeresh, his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. So he was very proudful of his position under the king. Verse 12. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself. So he's feeling all special because nobody else came in beside the king and Haman and himself. All right. And tomorrow I am invited unto her also with the king. So tomorrow, on the next day, he's also invited, all right, to another banquet, to another party that Esther is throwing up. All right, verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. So all the things that he had going on in his life, all the things he has going on in his life didn't mean nothing as long there was a black man that did not bow down to him. And that's how we have to look at the oppressor. The oppressor could give a damn about the success that he has or the money, controlling the entire country that he stole from the native Indians, and having enclaves on the other islands like Haiti, all right, like Puerto Rico. He's not satisfied with that. He wants to see us on our knees, all right? And this is the same spirit that we are looking at here in this devil. Um, and tomorrow I am invited into her also. Verse 13, we just read 13. Verse 14, then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. All right, so now he got a plan to kill Mordecai. Give me a second, Israel. So all right, Salaki for that, Israel. All right, we just read verse 13. All right, with Haman having a plan to hang Mordecai. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet, and the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. Verse 6. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles. So the king couldn't sleep because in his mind he's thinking about, okay, what the hell does my red want? What the hell does Esther want? All right, so because he couldn't sleep, he's like, you know what? Let me go over the record. Let me see what's been happening in the kingdom, that I may not be aware of. And they were read before the king. Verse 2, and it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh. Remember when we read earlier when Mordecai, there was two guards that had a conspiracy. They were conspiring to kill the king. Well, Mordecai found out about it, and he made Esther aware, which made the king's protection aware of it. The king didn't really understand what was going on. He didn't know what was going on. It's like something happening. You're the king. Your God's gonna take care of it. But he was not made aware of this situation. So this is what we're about to find out right now. Two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. Verse 3, and the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? So he's asking, well, this man saved my life. I didn't even know about it. What honor? What did they do for this guy? All right. Then said the Salakia, verse 3, verse 3, I'm ahead of myself. We got to go back in the Hebrew. All right, let's go back in the Hebrew. Read verse 3. All right, in the Hebrew. Salakia. Waya Amar Hamalak Maha Na'aisha'a Yaquar Waga Dawalha Lamara Ail Zaha Waya Amarwa Na'iriya Hamalak Masharaf Yawa La'a Na'aisha'a Aimawa Dabar. Verse 4. Waya Amar Hamalak Maya Ba-Katazar Wahaman Baha Lakatazar Bayaf Hamalak Hakya Tazawanha La Amar La Malak Latha Lawath Af Maradakya Isla Ha'aitazar Amar Hakayan Lawa. Verse 5. Waya Amarwa Na'iriya Hamalak Alayawa Hana'a Haman Aimad Bakatazar Waya Amar Hamalak Yabawa'a. Verse 6. Waya Bawa'a Haman Waya Amar Lawa Hamalak Maha La'ai Shawa Bahayash Ashar Hamalak Hapataza Baya Kwarawa Waya Amar Haman Balabwa Lamaya Yaka Pataza Hamalak La'ai Shawaf Yakwa Yawatha Mamania. Verse 7. Waya Amar Haman Al Hamalak Ayash Ashar Hamalak Kapataza Baya Kwawawa. Verse 8. We started at 3. 9 will be the last verse. Verse 8. Yabaya Hawa Labawash Malakwaf Ashar Labash Bawa Hamalak Wasa Ashar Rakab Ai Layawa Hamalak Wa Amar Nathan Batha Malakwa Bara Ashawa. Verse 9, last verse. Wana Thawan Hala Bawash Waha Sawasa Ail Yad Ayash Masharya Hamalak Hapar Rath Mayam Wahala Bayashwa Af Ha'ayash Ashar Hamalak Kapataza Baya Kwawawa Wahara Kayab Hawa Ail Hasawas, Bara, Kawab, Ha'ayar, Wakwara, Awa, Labanyawa, Kakaha, Ya'aishaha, Laha Yash, Ashar, Hamalak, Kapataza, Baya, Korawa. All right, now we read verse 3 in chapter 6. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. All right, nothing was done for this guy. He just saved your life, and that's it. We didn't honor him. We didn't tell him thank you. Nothing. He's a Benjamite. He's a Negro. Nothing was done for him. All right. Verse 4. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai. Remember, he already had the gallows built to hang Mordecai. So now he's coming in the gate. He's coming to speak to the king. He's coming to speak to the king about hanging, about killing, about murdering our brother, about murdering this Benjamite brother. All right. So as he's coming to the court, right? Now Haman was coming to the outward court of the king's house to speak unto him to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. Verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. Verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor? So the king is thinking about it. Okay, this guy saved my life. Nothing was done with him. Who's around? You know, which one of my officers are around? Oh, Haman is around. Let him come in. All right. Let me ask him. What do you think I should do for somebody that I want to honor? And Haman, being so egotistic, this is exactly what he thought. Now Haman thought in his heart, so in his mind, this is what he's thinking. To one will the king delight to do honor more than myself? Who else is the king's gonna honor? You know, I'm his second in command. So he's trying to honor me. So let me give him the right answer because of my egotistic mind. And listen to this, verse 7. And Haman answered the king for the man whom the king delighted to honor. Verse 8. Let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. So Haman he just want to be the king. All right, based on what he's saying. Verse 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes. All right. Let the most noble prince deliver this. So in his mind, he's thinking, look, I'm second in command. So he's going to get maybe the third in command or somebody of high rank to deliver this horse and this crown to me, Haman. All right. That they may array the man withal one the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. This is what you should do. All right, to the man that you want to honor. All right, now verse 10 in the Hebrew. All right, 6 and 10. There's a lot here. All right. Waya Amar Hamalak Laha Man Mahar Kwak Ath Hala Bawash Wa'ath Hasa Wasa Ka Ashar Dabarath Wa'aisha Khan Lamara Dakia Haya Hawa Daya Haya Washab Bashaira Hamalak Al Tapal Dabar Makal, Ashar, Dabarath, verse 11, Waya, Quak, Haman, Af, Hala, Bawash, Wa'af, Hasa, Wasa, Wayala, Ba, Wayala, Bash, Af, Mara, Dakia, Maradakia, Wayara, Kayab, Hawa, Bara, Kawab, Ha'ai, Ya, Waya, Kwara'a, Lapanyawa, Kakaha, Ya'aisha, La'ayash, Ashar, Hamalak, Kapataza, Baya, Kwarawa, verse 12, Waya, Shab, Mara, Dakia, Al, Sha'ira, Hamalak, Wahaman, Nada, Nadakap, Al, Bayathwa, Abal, Waka Pawaya, Ra'ash, verse 13, Wayasapal, Haman, Lazarash, Ashafwa, Wala Kal, Aha, Bayawa, Af Kal, Ashar, Kwarahawa, Waya Amawa, Lawa, Kama, Kaba Mayawa, Wazarash, Ashafwa, Mazarai, Haya, Hawad, Haya, Hawadium, Maradakia, Ashar, Haka, Lawath, Lanapal, Lapanyawa, La'a, Tawakal, Lawa, Kaya, Na Napawal, Tapawal, Lapanyawa, verse 14, Wadum, Madabayam, Mawa, Wasa Rayasya, Hamalak, Hagaya Iwa, Waya Bahawa, Laha Baya'a, Af, Haman, Al, Hamashatha, Ashar, Aishatha, Asatha, verse 1 in chapter 7, Wayaba'a, Hamalak, Wahaman, Lashaf, Waf, Ain, Asatha, Hamalakha, verse 2, Waya Amar, Hamalak, La'a, Satha, Gum, Baya Wam, Hashania, Bamashatha, Hayayan, Ma'a, Sha'a, Lathak, Asatha, Hamalakha, Wathan, Lak, Wama'a, Bakwa, Shatak, Aid, Katazaya, Hamalakwath, Watha Aish, verse 3. We studied that 10. All right, verse 2 is the last verse. All right. Chapter 6 and 10 in the English. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse as thou hast said, and do even to Mordecai the Jew. So he said, hurry up. What you just said, hurry up and go do that for the Jew. All right, that sitteth at the king's gate. The Jew called Mordecai that sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. All right, everything that you just said, from everything, from the horse, from the the crown, from the most noble princes which you are. Don't let nothing that I just said, don't ignore anything, do everything that I just said, right? Verse 11, then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the street of the city and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor. So like it. Verse 12, and Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house, mourning and having his head covered. So he's throwing a tantrum. All right. Verse 13, and Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and Hor, his friend, everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise man and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him. You're not going to win. All right. But shall surely fall before him. You're going to lose, basically. Verse 14, and while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. So, verse 7, verse 1 in chapter 7. It's like it. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. Verse 2. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day of the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. So, what is it that you want? All right, so I can make your wish come true, basically. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Verse 3. Verse 3, we're reading in the Hebrew. All right. Read chapter 7, verse 3. Wata'ain asatar ha-malakah wata amar mataza'afia come ba'ai yun hamalak wa il hamalak tawab Tanathan Leah Napashia Basha'al Lafia Wa'ai Maya Baba Quashafia verse 4 Kaya Nama Kara Nama Karagwa Anya Wa'aimaya Laha Shamayad Lahara Wad Wala Abad Wa'alwa La'ai Badyam Walashaf Kawaf Namakaran wa Hakarashafia Kaya Ayan Hatazar Shawa'a Bana Zakwa Hamalak, verse 5. Waya Amar Hamalak Akashawa Rawash Waya Amara La'a Sathar Hamalakha Maya Hawa'a Za'a Wa'aya Za'a Hawa'a Ashar Malahwa Labwa La'ai Shawaf Khan, verse 6. Watha Amar Asathar Ayash Tazar Wa'ayab
Haman, Ha-Ra'ai, Haza'ah, Wahaman, Naba'aith, Malapania, Hamalak, Waha-Malakha, verse 7, Waha-Malak, Quam, Baka Mathwa, Mamash Shatha, Hayayan, Ail, Gagath, Haba Yahwa, Habayathan, Wahaman, Aimad, Labakwash, Ail, Napath, Napashwa, Ma'a Sathar, Hamalaka, Kaya, Ra'aha, Kaya, Kalatha, Alayawa, Haraiha, Ma'ath, Hamalak, verse 8, started at 3. 8 to 9 will be the last verse. Verse 8. Wahamalak, Shab, Magagav, Habayathan, Al, Bayath, Mashatha, Hayayan, Wahaman, Nepal, Ail, Hamatha, Ashar, Asatha, Ailayaha, Waya'amal, Hamalak, Hagam, Lakabawash, Af, Hamalakha, Maya, Babayath, Hadabar, Yataza'ah, Mapaya, Hamalak, Wapanya, Haman, Kapawa, verse 9, Waya Amar, Kara Bawa Na'a, Akkad, Man, Hasara Yasayam, Lapanya, Hamalak, Gum, Hanaha, Ha'aitaza, Ashar, Aisha'a, Haman, Lamara, Dakya, Ashar, Dabar, Tawab, Ail, Hamalak, Aimad, Babayath, Haman, Gaba'ah, Hamashyam, Hama'a, Waya Amar, Hamalak, Thala Hawa. All right. And English, chapter 7, verse 3. Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. So here go Esther talking about, I want my life to be saved. This is her petition to the king. This is her request. Now that is the king's life, and she's talking about, I want my life to be saved and my people's life to be saved. All right. If we were sold to be slaves, I would have just stayed quiet. But we are condemned to die. So now the king don't know what the hell she's talking about, right? And this is what he responds. Verse 5. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he that does presume in his heart to do so? So it's like, who the hell is trying to kill you and your people? All right. verse 6, and Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Verse 7, and the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen. So now, instead of going to talk to the king, right, Haman went to go talk to his woman. He went and go talk to the queen, to the king's wife, instead of going to the king and tell the king, look, this is what it is. This is what happened. He's going to go to Esther and beg for his life. All right. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. So he saw that the king was getting ready to destroy him. So that's why he ran to the woman. Verse 8, and the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. So you can imagine, he's falling on the bed. He's like begging, begging and falling on the bed, like totally crossing the line, Paratazar. All right. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? Are you going to try to, have sex with my woman now? You're going to try to rape her now? In my house? On my bed? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. All right? So he ordered to, look, get this man out of here. Cover his face. Put a sack in his head. Verse 9, and Habernah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king. For the king standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon. Verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. So now the king was satisfied after, they killed Haman. Chapter 8. No, Salakia. Verse 9 was the last verse, right? Yeah, verse 9 was the last verse. What set are we on, brothers? Did you know?
On the last.
Where we ending at?
Just the last one, the very last one would be chapter 9, verse 1 through 3.
Esther 9.
You want the very last one?
Yeah, I started at Esther 5 and 10.
The very last one would be Esther chapter 9, verses 1 through 3. That would be the second set, the last.
9, I'll be starting at 1.
What was the last one? What was the last verse you left off?
I left off at verse 9. Chapter 7, verse 9. Just
You got
do a count for me. Just go back, do a count. Start at Esther 5 and 10, and just let me know when you got it. I just double check. For time's sake, I'm going to go into the English. We started at Esther 5 and 10. All right. For time's sake, we're going to go into the English. All right. Esther chapter 7, verse 10. So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Chapter 8, verse 1. On that day, the king Ahasuerus gave the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. All right. So this is when the king is finding out that this guy that saved his life is actually his wife's cousin, who raised him up as his own child, who raised her up as his own child. Verse 2. And the king of his ring took off his ring which he had taken from Haman and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Verse 4. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king. Verse 5. And said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. Verse 6. But how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? So Esther went and made another request to the king to reverse this letter that Haman had distributed throughout all the provinces, because on a set day they were to kill, to assassinate, to murder all the Jews, all the Israelites that were um, living throughout the king's provinces, right? um, Chapter 8, verse 7. All right, next said, Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Verse 8. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse. So whatever decree that the king made and that was sealed, that cannot be reversed. So he couldn't meet, so to speak, that request that his wife made unto him. All right, but he did allow them to defend themselves. Verse 9. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the third month, that is the month Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Ethiopia, and 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing and according to their language. Verse 10. And he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. Verse 11. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. All right. So, there was a letter that Haman created to destroy all the Jews. So now Mordecai is sending a letter throughout all these 127 provinces to say, look, we are going to fight. And not only are we going to fight, we're going to take the spoil of war. All right. We're not just going to sit around and let these heathen, massacre us. We started at verse, 7, 13. All right. Verse 12. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. Verse 13. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves themselves on their enemies. All right. Chapter 8, verse 14 is the next set. You got it, Shaw? Which verse is the last verse?
The verse will be chapter 9, verse 3 will be the last verse.
9 and 3 is the last verse. All right. Esther chapter 8 and 14. So the post that rode upon mules and camels went out, begging, hastened, and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. Verse 15. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. Verse 16, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Verse 17, and in every province and in every city whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. All right, so many of the people, what did they do? They started following after us. They started submitting to us. All right, they didn't become Jews by blood. All right, it's the same way that what happened to us in America. We became what? African American. We became Americanized. All right, well, this is what's going to happen to the world when we are in power.
Right.
All right, when the world, when we are in power, when Karatazar is ruling over a city, everybody in that city is going to be Paratazizing. All right, just creating a word. All right, they're gonna be doing after the manner of Paratazar, after his rules and regulations. All right, chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. Verse 2, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus to lay hand on such as sought their hurt. All right, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all the people. I'm gonna get the exact date because I want to make this announcement. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I could grab it real quick. No, that's not it. Let me see. I.S.U.P.K. Bear with me, Israel. Bear with me. I.S.U.P.K. Okay, I don't have it. All right, no sweat. Esther chapter 9, verse 3. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. So you imagine these people are finding out that Haman, who made this letter, who had given that order, although it was sealed by the king, now he has been assassinated by the very king. All right, that sealed his letter. So now everybody know that the king's favor is towards Mordecai. So the fear of Mordecai fall upon them, because they're like, you know what? We're not gonna be able to defeat him because the king is with him, and not only that, they are going to fight back. They're not just gonna stay there and watch us destroy them. They're going to fight back. So this is how we end up having a feast out of this history right here, and we're gonna get into it um, in the next Sabbath, Lord willing. With that, I imagine up here. Next week we're picking it up at Esther 9 and verse 4. So which means horn. Yayan, which stands for wine.
La Yasharala, which means to Israel. With that, men of Israel, women of Israel, and Majam, which means to stand. Solve upon your Hakwadam, which means turn and face the east. The Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kadash, Hayat, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakovka, Taba'ah, Matazaka, Hayat, I.S.U.P.K, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Hayat, Ashamayim, Madallanawa, Lakam, Ka, Yawam, Masalakanawa, Kawabakinawa, Nasalakanawa, Kawabakinawa, Wala'ah, Habayayinawa, Banasai 1, Abal, Awashayna, Mayan, Rad, Hayat, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'atapara, La'awalamyam, Aman. In English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For that is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. I.S.U.P.K curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh,
Blessed are you, Yahweh,
King of heaven and earth,
King of heaven and
and
earth,
all things living.
and all things living.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
in the name of Yahweh, listen to us now.
Listen to us now.
Right now.
Right now.
Send evils and curses,
Send evils and curses,
and punishment and destruction
punishment and
to the
destruction
heathen that speak against us,
that speak against
that
us,
prophets,
that prophets,
the teachers,
the teachers,
the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the school. Send evils and curses,
Send evils and
and
curses,
punishment and destruction
punishment and
to
destruction
the heathen,
to the heathen,
and shake loose
shake loose
the treasure of the rich of
the
Israel
treasure of the rich of Israel
that refuse to give to the school.
that refuse to give to a school.
Force their riches
Force their
to
riches
enter into thy sanctuary.
into our sanctuary.
Send evils and curses,
Send evils and curses,
and punishment and destruction
punishment and
to the
destruction
Edomites
to the
in
Edomites
the nation,
in the nation,
in their drug dealing, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies,
all the government,
Amalek, synagogues, and armies,
Amalek, synagogues,
Roman Catholic Church,
Roman
the
Catholic,
Pope,
the Pope,
Islam,
Islam,
Christianity,
Christianity,
Egyptology, militia,
militia,
Ku Klux Klan,
Ku Klux Klan,
Aryan Nation,
Aryan Nation,
Skinhead,
Skinhead,
Basi Kamatas,
Basi
the gay
Kamatas,
movement,
the gay movement,
the lesbian
lesbian
movement,
movement,
spies,
spies,
workers of witchcraft,
workers of
NASA
witchcraft,
space programs,
workers of
Army,
Army,
Navy,
Navy,
Air Force,
Air Force,
Marines,
Marines,
Wall Street,
Wall Street,
open up the internet,
open up the internet,
and the airwaves,
and the airways,
the cable access channel,
cable access
and the
channel,
radio
and the
channel.
radio channel,
Convict the spirit
convict the spirit
of any of our people
of any of our
that seek to stop
that
us
seek to stop
and
us,
bring swift destruction
and bring swift
to
destruction
all the heathen
to all the
that stand in the way
that stand in
or
the way,
try to stop us
try to stop
from
us
broadcasting your word
broadcasting
to
your
all the
word
planet Earth.
on the
Let
planet.
loose all the plagues,
Let loose all the
cause them to go to and fro
Going to go to and fro
to the earth
to the earth,
and consume them.
Consume them.
Let the plague
Let the
shake
plague
the house of the thief
shake the house of the
and the murderer.
The murderer.
Let Yahweh Shah,
Yahweh
Michael and Gabriel
Michael and Gabriel
come down with the flying saucers
come down with the
and
flying
punish
saucers
all the heathen
punish all the heathen
that come up against
that
us
come up against
as we speak thy word.
As we speak thy
Cause
word.
it to be known by all
Let it be known
that
by
it is
all
the angels that have done
that the
it.
angels that
Cause
have
it
done
to
it.
be spread to the
Let
media
it be spread to the media
throughout the whole
throughout the
world.
whole
Cause
world.
it to shake out thy
Cause
covenant.
it to shake
In
the
the name of Yahweh Shah.
In the name of Yahweh Shah.
Thank you always.
Thank you always.
So be it.
So be it.
Saul, which means to turn. Sister Yeshavia, be seated. Men of Israel, one courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Majam Shabbat, Majam, Barak,
Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Rakatah.
Yachmatah. So to the sister, Sister Imajam. Men of Israel, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the sister, Imajam Shabbat, Najam, Barak,
Yahweh Shemar, Bashem Yahushua.
Yachmata, dismiss. Christ.
Oh, Hanukkah.
Oh, you got it? Yeah, come. What was the date?
It's
We still live, right?
Hanukkah.
Oh, what's the date for it?
The date is Hanukkah, December 17th.
December 17th. All right, this is our next holy convocation. It is not a holy day, but it is a feast day that we're gonna get here. We're gonna gather together as a people because this is a day to remember when we were supposed to be annihilated on the face of the earth, but we are still standing today, and we can see what's going on in the news, what's going on with the heathen not wanting us to claim our identity. All right, so December 17th is our next convocation. Next week we're picking it up at Esther chapter 9 and 4. Shalom, Israel.